turning religious items or values into idolatry. And that is a problem in Judaism, and I think it always has been. Right today, I'll give you two quick examples, top of my head. Right, one is going to Uman, to the grave of Rav Nachman of Breslov. The other is the mitzvah of mezuzah. Maybe we'll come back to in just a minute. But let's take a look at the parsha. You have a fantastic example. Right, in our parsha, the Jews complain again. Why'd you take us out to kill us in the desert? Right, it's terrible, and this is again over and over and over again. And we read that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends, right, he sends snakes to start killing them. Right, that's actually probably not a good way to go. But Vaishalach Hashem ba'am et hanechashim hasrafim. God sends the snake by Neshua ta'am, and they bite the people. Vayamat sham am rav mi Yisrael. Right, many people died, and then to fix that, Moshe takes the nechash hanechoshet, the copper serpent. He puts it on a staff. Everybody looks at it, and they are healed. Right now, the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, right, actually compares that to the war with Amalek when Moshe raises his hands and the Jews win. He puts his hands down and they lose, right? And the Mishnah says, does raising hands and lowering hands really win a war? No, but raising the hands directs our attention to Avinu Shabbat to our Father in heaven. And when we focus and we daven and we fight together, we're successful. Right? When we fight, but we forget Hashem, so we're not successful. The same thing, putting the copper serpent up on the staff was to point people's attention up to heaven, right? And with that, they would be healed. The Mishnah asks, right, does the serpent kill or heal? No, really, it is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And that's the story. There is, of course, a difference between Moshe's hands going up, right, where it's a directional signal, and an actual item that's used for the same purpose. And if you were to ask yourself, what happens to that nechash hanechoshet, right, that silver, sorry, I keep saying silver, the copper serpent, what was its end? So we actually read in the book of Malachim, the book of Kings, Kings 2, that Chizkiyahu, when he's cleaning out all the idolatry, right, he removes the bamot, the private altars, which were prohibited, and he breaks the matzevot and the asherot, the trees and the forbidden idols that they had put up. Right, those were all asur. And then he says, V'chitat nechash hanechoshet asher asa Moshe. Right, he destroyed that copper serpent that Moshe had fashioned, right? This item of antiquity, this cherished historical possession, had obviously at some point during Jewish history, had become an item that was worshipped. It was no longer used to direct our attention to heaven, but it was worshipped for its own power, right? Dangerous to have. That's why we don't have symbols. We don't have physical manifestations of Hashem, because we will come to serve them as idols. People were using this serpent, right, davening to it, worshiping it as an avodah zarah, and it had to be destroyed. Nobody knows the end of that story. The end of that story is not a good story, but it highlights the danger of taking things that are religious in nature, that are supposed to remind us of Hashem and mitzvot, and transforming them into idolatry. Right? To end where I began, right? The mitzvah of mezuzah is not an amulet charm that protects your house. It reminds you that Hashem is everywhere, that you have to act properly in the house. You have to do the mitzvot. If you do that, maybe your house gets protected. But it's not a magic charm. It's not something that we worship, that we believe has these powers. Right? Nachman of Breslov, right? I don't know much about his Torah, but I'd much prefer people learn his Torah, right, than go and I don't know what they do at his grave. But rabbinic personalities become idolatrous, right, or idolatrously worshipped. Items physical mitzvot sometimes become quasi-idolatrous, right? Something we have to be careful about. We have to always remember it's not the serpent that kills or makes people live. All of our attention has to be focused on Hashem, on the mitzvot. That's the proper way for a Jew to live and a Jew to behave. Shabbat shalom.